turn yourself to face outwards and bring your back against the wall and your feet away from the wall. We're going to do wall sits. So with this, find where your feet are wider than your hip width, so closer to the edges of the mat, and play with how far they need to be from the wall that you can begin to feel your thighs. Be mindful, especially of your knees here, so that your knees are over your ankles, and open your knees out over your toes so you see your big toes inside your thighs. And then find where your back is broad against the wall. So tuck your tailbone down and allow your low back to tuck into the wall. So use your core strength to do that. And then bring your shoulder blades against the wall and the back of your head against the wall. And take a breath or so into your back and feel if there's any difference left to right in how you connect to the wall. You can let your hands rest on your thighs or drop down towards the ground. We're doing 3 of these, so you might want to start out with the first one somewhat conservatively, but don't be too conservative. The idea here is to wake up and strengthen your quadriceps, your thighs. If you have any issues with your knees, lift your toes and press the floor away with the balls of your feet so that you're not sinking into your knee joints. Give yourself another couple of breaths. We're spending a minute in each one of these. Breathe deeply into your thighs. And then use your next inhale and your hands against the wall to push the wall away and come up to standing on your feet. If possible, keep your feet where they are so you don't have to fluff about, and yet bend your knees a little bit. Notice the energy, the heat or sensation in your thighs. If your breath got quicker, slow it down, and take in what you've just done. Integrate that, and practice standing tall. Even though your feet are probably a little wider than they would normally be for standing tall, see if you can get a sense of lifting up through the back of your skull and reaching down through your heels, like you're pushing the ground away. Notice where your weight is on your feet. Even though you might be reaching through your heels, feel the spread of your toes, the even balance across the balls of your feet. So if you tend to collapse through your arches, favor the outer edge of your foot, the little toe ball of your foot, to find that lift. By the end of this balancing minute of integrating the intensity of the wall sit, you're probably ready to do something again. So as you come into your second wall sit, as you bring your back against the wall again, see if you can take your feet a little bit farther out, if you can go deeper. You can ultimately work with your thighs parallel to the floor. You want to find where you can breathe and where you can do 3 of them. As you find where your feet are, double check your toes line up, your heels are behind the middle of your toes, and as you bend your knees are out over your toes. So you can see your big toe inside your kneecap. If you have any issues with your knees, lift your toes, push the floor away with the ball of your foot, and feel how that not only helps support your knee joints, it also helps plant your low back into the wall a little bit more. And then breathe into your thighs. Take tension, any tension that creeps into your jaw and neck, take that out. And as you release, focus the energy into your thighs. Your breath might become a little more audible, but see if you can keep it long and deep. Nearly there. To come out of this without having to change your feet, if possible, push the wall away with your hands, come up onto your feet right where they are, and stand tall. If you need to soften your knees a little bit, feel free, especially if you tend to get lightheaded. Keep your knees a little bit softer. Find that balance between grounding down through the soles of your feet and lifting up through the back of your skull. See if it's possible to lengthen your breathing as you integrate that intensity. It may be helpful to visualize breathing from your feet all the way up your legs, like you're suctioning the breath out of the ground, letting it fill your belly and your ribs and your chest, and exhaling and lifting up through the back of your skull, starting to feel a little bit more length along your spine. And watching the sensation, notice how what was possibly really intense a moment ago starts to ease out after just a few breaths. Knowing that, trusting that, use your next exhale to come into your third, final wall sit. So if you can, start to come more parallel to the floor with your thighs. Find the distance that your feet need to be so that you can bring your thighs a little closer to the ground. Energize your feet so that you safeguard your knees and you help find more broadness in your low back. Let your shoulders rest, your head rest on the wall. Feel free to close your eyes if you feel balanced. Identify that sensation. Where is it exactly? What color would you put on it if you could? What temperature? Get to know it and stay with it by breathing slowly and steadily. Last couple of seconds. You can do it. Next inhale, push the wall away, come up onto your feet. And for this last integration, standing tall, bring your feet underneath your front hips, so they're about a fist width apart. Find whatever length in your legs doesn't lock your knees. What I like to play with here in this simple standing exercise is this idea of coming down to earth from above, as though I'm having to reach down through my heels to even touch the ground. See if that gives you any more space along the vertebrae of your spine, any more sense of lightness and lift through your whole body. I'm going to transition here from standing to bringing your left side towards the wall and finding when you reset your feet in that mountain stance parallel underneath you and you start to bring your weight onto your left foot, that your left hand touches the wall and touches it lightly for balance. So you're not leaning into the wall, you're not leaning into your left hip. And once you do, hold on to your right foot with your right hand. Having engaged the quadriceps, we're now going to release them, stretch them a little bit. Just use your left hand on the wall for balance to help you feel how you can lift more out of your left foot. So we're using the wall to isolate and become more precise in our engagement, not to sink in to it. Feel your inner left arch, the front of your right thigh, the lift of your low belly, particularly with stretching the quadricep muscle, the right thigh. Think of aiming your tailbone down towards the ground, keeping your core strong. Otherwise, if you change the angle of your pelvis, you'll lose that opportunity to stretch the right thigh more thoroughly. This next exhale, release your right foot down, reset your mountain stance, your parallel feet underneath you, and you may need to bring your feet closer to the wall as you bring your left forearm to the wall. So you're bringing your forearm all the way to your elbow to the wall and a little bit behind you. If you have issues with your shoulders, be mindful and slow with how you set your arm here. Once you find where your left forearm is against the wall, your feet are parallel, your hips are squared right out over your toes, then start to bring your left rib cage, your left upper chest forward until you feel the stretch in your upper left chest and shoulder, and it's breathable. Once you get a sense of that, of where you need to be, where your shoulder is down on your back and yet you're feeling a stretch in it, then release your right ear towards your right shoulder, and that's going to amplify everything even more. So check that you can breathe, you can keep your jaw and your tongue relaxed. Think of breathing from the ground all the way up your legs, your spine, into that opening on the left side. Next time you exhale, turn your nose or your forehead towards your shoulder. Find a slightly different stretch, more in the back of the left side of your neck. Give that one more breath, one more inhale into your neck, and then as you exhale, release your head down and turn to face the other way. So if you turn towards the wall, release your left arm, and we're working with that same shoulder stretch, but on the right side. So about the same distance from the wall, but check it. Check what's going on in this right shoulder. Bring your feet parallel to each other. Once you have your right forearm against the wall, your right elbow a little lower than your right shoulder. Otherwise, that shoulder will creep up. Finding the length in your legs that doesn't lock your knees, the length in your low back, so you have a good foundation underneath the focus in this right shoulder. And then let your head release, your left ear release towards your left shoulder. And check that you can breathe into what you're feeling in your right shoulder. So adjust the angle of your head as you need to be able to inhabit the stretch on the right side of your neck. With your next exhale, change the angle so that your nose, your chin drops towards your left shoulder. You're more in the back of that right side of your neck. Keeping space in your face. Think of breathing from your feet all the way up your body. So even though you're focused on your neck, you haven't forgotten your foundations. Next time you exhale, let your right hand slide down, your head release to center, and then bring your right hand forward a little bit, ahead of you slightly, and you may need to adjust where your right foot is. If you feel too hemmed in by the wall, step out slightly so that we can stretch the left thigh, left quadricep here. So you're balancing on your right foot. Double check as you've made this shift into your right foot that your toes are still pointing straight ahead of your heel and in line with your knee and front hip. And then as you hold on to your left foot and you draw it up towards your left butt cheek, aim your tailbone down. Don't let your front hips sink forward. Draw your low belly in and up. We're going to make a transition here from just stretching the quadricep muscle into a fuller posture called Natraj-asana, or dancer pose. We're going to change the hold on the foot. Instead of holding your left foot from the outside, turn your palm to your inner arch. You'll know you're in the right place with this hold because your shoulder will be open. It won't be rounded forward. It'll be open back. Once you have the hold on your foot, energize your foot. So you're curling your toes over your fingers and pressing through the ball of the foot to safeguard the knee. As we move into this, as you start to fold forward slightly by pressing through your back foot and letting that left quadricep open even more, You may find that the right knee wants to lock. Powerfully lift your kneecap, your quadricep muscle up, and only go to the extent that you can feel that left front hip is facing the floor still. So you're not opening out into the room with your left hip. Let your right hand come down the wall as much as you need to help you feel balanced and supported by the wall. And then you can play with taking your hand away from the wall. If you do that, you may want to turn your palm up, or feel free to hover your right fingertips near the wall so you know you have the balance and support you need. One more big breath into this dancing, balancing pose, and then use your next exhale to release your left foot down. Take your time to turn the other way. So we'll start first with coming back into that quadricep stretch in the right thigh, finding your balance in your left foot, and your left hand is slightly forward. Then start to change where your right hand is. So instead of being on the outside of your right foot, you're turning your right palm to the inside of your arch, so your thumb is in line with your big toe. You'll feel that right shoulder open. Before you start pressing out into the more expressive version of this posture, square your front hips forward, draw your low belly in and up, and then move into it by pressing your right foot into your right hand, letting your left hand come forward along the wall. As you start to fold forward, check you're not locking your left knee. Lift up through your left thigh, and that you're also not opening your right hip out into the room. It's facing more towards the floor. If you like, play the last breath or so with balancing, with taking your left fingertips away from the wall. Focusing your eyes on a point will help your balance. Breathing will also help you stay present and not create tension in the dance, the dancer pose. This next time that you exhale, release, and come back to standing tall. Find that mountain stance. Notice how you feel, what's going on in your legs. So from that place of being grounded in your feet underneath your front hips, interlace your fingers and take your arms up overhead. If it works for your wrists and shoulders, keep your fingers interlaced and turn your hands inside out so you feel a stretch through the underside of your wrists. And reach up. You can, for a breath, let your shoulders shrug up, but then slide them down, clear the space around your neck. And as you exhale next, curve over to the wall. So the heel of your left hand touches the wall. We're moving into the half moon posture, but using the wall to find more length and space along the spine. Now, if this doesn't work for your wrist, you can unlace your fingers and bring your left palm flat to the wall and just rest your right hand on your left arm or hold on to your left wrist. And then let your head rest on your left arm. If you're not sure where your hips and shoulders are, you may have to look down before you let your head rest. Find where your front hips are squared off the long edge of the mat, and so are your shoulders. As you push the wall away with your left hand, ease out into having more weight in the outer edge of your right foot. From your feet, lift up through your legs and arch out through the right side of your waist. Find a stretch along your right waist and ribs, and focus your breath in between your right ribs. And this next time that you inhale, push the wall away, lift your right arm up, and turn towards the wall and come to face the other side, so you have your right side near to the wall. Double check your feet. And then interlace your fingers. And this time as you interlace your fingers, change the lacing of your fingers so your other thumb is on top. As you lift your arms up overhead, if it works for your wrists and shoulders, turn your hands inside out. And then slide your shoulders down onto your back, finding space around your neck. And with your next exhale, ease over to the wall. And if it works to keep your hands interlaced, rest the heel of your right hand against the wall. If not, unlace your fingers and rest your whole right palm against the wall. And before you rest your head on your right arm, look down and see that your underarms are facing evenly off the long edge of the mat, and so are your front hips. Give yourself the right amount of room from the wall with your feet so that you can open out into the left side. So if you feel like you're crowded, shift out. If you're feeling precarious, shift in. And once you're stable and aligned, then press with your right hand so that you arch out into your left side and focus your breath between your left ribs. Start to feel a little more weight into the outer edge of your left foot. One more breath into that whole left side. And then with your next inhale, push the wall away, lift your arms up, come back up to standing. Namaste.